DNA results abruptly revealed a family secret, turning my identity upside down, but my father's love remained steadfast. I 35, over a week ago on Halloween night, I was about to go to sleep at around 2 a.m. when I got an email that my ancestry DNA results were ready. Eager to see the results, I decided to take a quick look. I was excited because this was a project I had been working on with my father. When his mother, my closest grandparent, passed a few years ago, we were happy to bond over carrying on her genealogy research to discover and explore our extended family tree. But, upon opening the regions page, I was immediately confused. 3 of my grandparents, now all deceased, had strong Ashkenazi backgrounds, which has always been a huge part of my identity. While my living family is not strictly religious, we have always been very connected ethnically and culturally to our Judaism. But when I looked at my results, they showed that I was only 34% Ashkenazi, a stark difference from my brother's 80%, from when he took the test a few years ago. I convinced myself that maybe he'd inherited the maximum amount of those genetics while I received the minimum. Regions appeared that I had never heard my family speak of and I had never seen in any of my research: French, Basque, Finnish. I dismissed this as well, recalling posts I have seen about people's DNA results shifting after recent Ancestry platform updates. Then I moved to regions by parent and I saw that all my Ashkenazi ancestry came from parent 1, while all these unexpected regions were from parent 2. I felt a pang of panic but quickly assigned parent 1 to my father, who had 2 Ashkenazi parents, and parent 2 to my mother, who had 1 Ashkenazi parent. I kept reassuring myself that this was just an extreme genetic distribution and nothing more. Then I opened the DNA matches section and saw my brother listed. This was no surprise to me, as I knew he had taken a test years ago, but then I saw that he was listed as my half-brother. I quickly changed the label to full brother, ignoring pop-up warnings encouraging against it. As I kept looking, I noticed 2 other people below my brother who appeared as my maternal grandparents, but their names were not those of the grandparents I grew up with my whole life. They were my grandparents' best friends, my sort of pseudo-grandparents growing up. I gasped and clung to the idea that my mother had been adopted by her parents and that both families had stayed close through it all. After sitting with this for a few hours, I called my dad. Even though he and my mom had been divorced for 15 years, and I never made it a habit to involve them in each other's affairs, I just needed reassurance, and I've always called my dad when I needed help. When I asked if he knew whether my mom had been adopted, he laughed, assuring me she wasn't. I took him through what I'd found, leaving out details I thought were irrelevant. My dad was quiet as I explained, but he patiently walked me through my theory. The more we talked, the more inconsistencies we uncovered, and I grew increasingly frustrated. Then, to my shock, my dad suggested that he might be questioning his paternity to me. I laughed it off, even grew angry with him, trying to steer the conversation back to my mom's adoption. But while he looked up his own 23andMe results, I went back to my DNA matches section to find my closest relative on my paternal side. I clicked into family trees, expecting to see familiar names. And they were familiar. Just not paternally. The tree showed my mother's relatives, her tree. It hit me then, I had misassigned my parents. Parent 1 was my mother, and parent 2 was my father. With the correct assignments, my biological grandparents shifted to my paternal side. As I was confirming this for my father, he protested, telling me this still didn't line up 100% because my brother had shown up as fully related to me. I then confessed that I had changed my brother's relation to me, thinking it was a mistake at first. When I reverted my brother's status to its default, it read, half-brother, maternal side only, and at that moment, after 2 hours of frustration, I finally broke down. The man who'd been my father all my life, and my closest family, were not biologically related to me. By 5 a.m., I was beyond exhausted, ashamed for clinging so desperately to denial. My dad told me he'd known from the first result I'd shared that he likely wasn't my biological father, not because he ever suspected it, but because he trusted the science. He said the hardest part of finding out with me was watching me struggle so hard to rewrite the truth. The next 24 hours, sleepless and emotionally raw, were filled with some of the most heart-wrenching conversations of my life. My mother shared with me that, early in her marriage to my father, she had a very brief affair. It was only one time. She believed she'd taken all precautions, and, with no reason to suspect otherwise, she put that chapter behind her. She went on to have 3 children, all resembling my father, and there was never a hint of doubt from anyone in our family. If not for this test, this hidden piece of our history would have remained forever unknown. This past week has been extremely challenging, and the first few days were damn near paralyzing, but I'm choosing to approach this journey with forgiveness and understanding, hoping to find some positive takeaway from it all. My father and I agreed that, although unexpected, learning this truth together over the phone was perhaps the best way it could have unfolded. Our bond is unshaken, and we both know this revelation doesn't change anything between us. As for my relationship with my mom, we haven't always been very close, but over the last 7 years, we've grown to understand each other in ways I never thought possible. She married at 20 and had me at 21, navigating a difficult past and a very limited opportunity to explore her identity before starting a family. As our bond deepened over the years, I often found myself wishing I could go back in time, befriend my younger mother, and show her another life. One similar to the one I am currently living and loving, largely thanks to her. I understand that she made a mistake at a young age, but nothing in me feels anger towards her. I realize that in many ways, I'm luckier than most in this situation. I have a supportive family, my siblings included, who have been incredibly reassuring and are fully behind whatever decision I make about reaching out to my biological father. I've connected with an NPE, non-paternal event, therapist, and my first session is this Tuesday. I've also ordered a few books written by others who've been through similar experiences, hoping they offer some guidance. My friends have rallied around me, and their support has been a huge comfort. Sharing this here feels like an important part of processing everything, a way to connect with a community who can truly relate. I know there are still many choices ahead, deciding whether to reach out to my biological father, figuring out what to say if I do, and finding a way to rekindle my joy for exploring my ancestry. I want to get to a place where I can carry on my grandmother's legacy, learning to appreciate each branch of my family tree, even if my connection to each one is now so different. Thank you for giving me a space to share my story. I was still trying to find some random excuses for a few days, but I have fully accepted it now. I just wasn't sure if people would think, how could she not believe the science? It's right there. Lol, maybe that is just me still being hard on myself, so thank you for the reminder to be gentle. Update 1. Since Halloween of last year, I've been very intentional about my NPE journey. In November, I started seeing a therapist who specializes in NPE experiences, and she's been incredible. I feel incredibly fortunate. Not only did I find a therapist who's a great fit for me, but she has also been through the exact same experience I had back in 2018. She's helped me navigate both the emotional impact and the logistical aspects of my discovery. As for reaching out to my biological father, I ultimately had my mom deliver the news to him and gauge his reaction. For context, I actually grew up around my biological father and half-siblings without knowing our connection. None of us did. His parents, my biological grandparents, were best friends with my grandparents, my mom's parents, and he and my mom grew up together. Though he wasn't technically a stranger, we hadn't spoken in years. When my mom told him the truth, he was completely shocked but also happy and immediately expressed a strong desire to talk, on my terms. A few days later, I called him and explained how I discovered the truth. We caught up a bit, but mostly, he cried and expressed deep shame for what had happened, particularly what he had done to my dad. He told me he wanted to speak with my dad to make amends. And he did. My bio dad reached out, and they had a few conversations. He expressed his regret and reassured my dad that he would never and could never replace him. Despite the pain, my dad has shown an incredible amount of grace and has been open to having a relationship with my bio dad. It's not entirely surprising, given that they were actually friends long ago, before and during my parents' marriage. Though they hadn't spoken in years, they were never truly strangers. I've made it clear to both of them that whatever relationship they choose to have is entirely up to them. Their journey of forgiveness is separate from mine, and I support whatever path they take. After Christmas, I saw my bio dad in person. While home for the holidays, they drove a few hours to come see me and my mother. The reunion was a bit last minute, but I knew they were eager, and I realized that dragging it out would only make me more anxious. My dad initially struggled with the timing. He felt it was happening too fast, but I reassured him that this was the right decision for me and my own healing. Eventually, he supported me. The reunion itself was surreal. I saw my bio dad, his wife, whom he met long after I was conceived, my two half-siblings, and my bio grandparents. Though I had known them as a teenager, the dynamic was, understandably, different. They all cried, hugged me, and expressed how happy they were to have me in their lives. We ate, drank, and tried to keep things as natural as possible. We even went out to dinner and toasted to everyone's strength in handling this news. The last toast was to my dad, which completely choked me up. I cried when they left. One thing that came up when I shared my regional DNA results is that my bio dad got confirmation that his grandpa was not his father's father. Their family had been speculating for a while that there was a DNA discrepancy, and my results just proved it and allowed my bio dad to tell his dad that his father was not biologically related to him. That's a whole other story that has come undone because of my discovery. Since the visit, my bio dad and I have spoken a few times, but everything has been very low pressure. After such an emotional and intense November and December, we all felt the need to settle into our new reality. The start of the year has been about finding normalcy again, and it's been refreshing to deal with everyday life while continuing to work through things with my therapist. The world is only getting weirder and weirder as time passes, and I'm trying to keep my discovery in perspective, to see it as a blip in my experience that makes me interesting and challenges me to rethink my understanding of connection, relationships, and family. With the continuous support of my friends and family, I don't think it needs to be anything more than that right now. Moving forward, I want to wait until the summertime to start digging back into my Ancestry account. My goal is to continue to help my father build out his tree, even if my DNA won't be an asset there. I will keep working on my mother's tree, and I have agreed to help my bio dad do more research on his family, since he doesn't know who his real grandfather is. I want to find ways to relate to all three trees, even if they all feel slightly different to me. In the meantime, I will work to gather health history and other info from my living bio family so that I can give my real health history for the first time to my doctors. Hey all, it's been a wild spring, and I promised myself I'd check in after a real milestone or two. Now, looking at my color-coded family wall, Yes, my therapist gave me permission to get obsessive with index cards. I realize I've got one hell of a story to share. Buckle up, it's about to get weirder, messier, and, honestly, way more interesting than I ever imagined. First, a quick check-in. Therapy is still my anchor. My dad and I are closer than ever, and my bio dad has, unexpectedly, slipped seamlessly into the group chat roast rotation. We now do a monthly most confusing dad meme off. My mom and I have gotten close enough that we text about her favorite 90s sitcoms and, weirdly, she's gotten me into her favorite old hiking trails. So, family peace? Not perfect but stronger in its imperfections. But, as promised, I jumped back into the DNA deep dive this June. Let's start with my bio dad's side. After I shared our family's little surprise last year, he admitted he'd always wondered about his own father's paternity. Armed with my new DNA matches, he and I got to work, messaging the mysterious possible first cousins popping up in both of our lists. We braced for awkward, but what I didn't expect was an email that started, "Hi, I think you might be my half-sibling's kid. Call me?" It turns out, my great-grandfather's secret wasn't really secret at all, just never confirmed. My great-grandma had a relationship with a boarder who stayed with the family during the war years, and apparently that guy kept in touch with my great-uncles until the 80s. With some gentle prodding, and a little cross-referencing, we found and Zoom met two living, half-great-great-aunties. They brought out black and white photos and stories I'd never heard, plus, an almost comically strong family resemblance. So, I saw the other branch of my face for the first time. Half my bio dad's family had no idea we existed, the other half had always suspected something. Family drama? Oh, yes. Apparently when a highly respected longtime member of our small-town church died, 3 people were quietly relieved and 3 others quietly mourned a lost opportunity for truth. Who knew rural genealogies came with this many plot twists? But this informal truce, bonded by awkward giggles and facial features, has actually brought both sides closer together. As for the who gets the family baking dish dispute, I'm happy to surrender it if I get more stories in exchange. Over on my legal dad's side, we hit another surprise. While helping him piece together his tree, mainly for my siblings, as my DNA isn't useful, we matched with a few cousins his mom had lost touch with in the 80s. Not only did I reconnect my father with his cousin Lisa after 35 years, they immediately started exchanging pie recipes, but I helped solve a mini-mystery. Lisa's dad had run off to Canada in the 1970s, leaving behind rumors. Turns out, he was alive and well, with a new family, and had never known how to reach back out. I'm now unofficially the ancestry whisperer in that branch. All of this led to the oddest family barbecue I've ever attended. Picture, my dad and Lisa, my legal grandmother's real Polish pierogi recipe getting passed to 3 new grandchildren, and me sitting between 4 people who technically aren't biologically tied to me but have known me since birth. One referred to me as our truly cosmopolitan cousin. The warmth was overwhelming, and the food, dangerous. But wait, here's where it gets crazy. At that very barbecue, I met a woman named Iris who swore up and down she recognized me from somewhere. She pulled out her phone to show me old dance class pictures from the late 90s. Sure enough, little me, grinning, standing beside her daughter. Turns out, small towns really are tiny, and the interconnectedness of all these relationships blew my mind. Earlier this spring, my legal grandpa's name showed up in the local paper regarding an unsolved time capsule mystery. Someone had found an old trunk unearthed behind the former family bakery. My dad always said his dad was a prankster. The entire family spent years absorbing his cryptic stories. So, I got involved, because who wouldn't be drawn in? And, using my new genealogy research skills, traced the original owner of the bakery to, you guessed it, one of my not by blood but by love great uncles. Inside, love letters, scandalous photos, for the 1950s, and a mystery locket that matches one we'd seen in an old family pic. Somehow, my newly found cousin group is now working with the local library to piece together this local love story, and the librarian is already pushing for a Families of Main Street exhibit. If you'd told me last Halloween that I'd be giving a short speech about my, not quite, relatives' love letters at the town picnic, I would have laughed you off Reddit. Yet here we are. Last update, I ended by saying I wanted to gather health history. Well, I did. It's complicated. On my bio dad's side, they're blessed with longevity and curly hair, but there's a strong family tendency for type 2 diabetes and a rare heart arrhythmia. I got checked, and, long story short, my primary care doctor now thinks I may have dodged a bullet with all the proactive lifestyle stuff. Ironically, my legal father's family medical history had prepared me for an entirely different set of risks, so it's a little like switching video game characters halfway through and suddenly discovering new secret moves. This year, I learned, confusion can be its own kind of clarity. It forced our family to talk honestly in ways we never had. To my surprise, my dad and bio dad are now friendly. They poke fun at each other in front of my siblings, and, once, they grilled me together about my messy car like a 2-dad peanut gallery. It is, in the most surreal way, deeply healing. If I have one piece of advice for readers, don't be afraid to reach out to mystery cousins, not quite sisters, and the family you never expected to find. Sometimes you uncover pain, yes, but you also find joy in unlikely places. More than anyone, you find yourself, bit by messy bit. Right now, I'm balancing 3 family trees, 2 dad joke aficionados, and at least a dozen people vying for cousin of the year. I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm still not sure which branch to root for at the 4th of July 3-legged race. But hey, maybe I'll just run with all of them. Update 2, the plot thickens and the roots go deeper. Well, believe it or not, this spring managed to one-up my wild winter, and at this point, I feel like the main character in a DNA detective novel that just won't quit. So buckle up, because the branches keep multiplying. Turns out, my weirder and messier journey still had plenty in store. Here's what's been going down. Let's start with what I never expected. Apparently, my small corner of the world has secret family reunion energy rivaling a soap opera. If you remember, last update, I mentioned my ancestry whisperer status. Well, add genetic domino setter offer to my resume because one revelation triggered another, and suddenly, everyone is spilling old secrets. It started innocently, with a Facebook message. Hi, you helped my cousin Lisa find her dad. Could you, look at this DNA puzzle? That led me to orchestrating a Saturday afternoon Zoom with 4 people I'd never met, a whiteboard, and a Google Sheets workflow. We worked out that 2 of my not actually biological cousins are, hilariously, true second cousins to each other through a mutual great-great-grandfather, who apparently lived a double life with 2 separate families 5 miles apart in the 1940s. One side got the farm, the other, a penchant for bad puns and multi-generational secrecy. They're now planning a barbecue to combine the humor genes, as they put it. Meanwhile, on the maternal side, things got even weirder. Remember the pseudo-grandparents who turned out to be my actual bio-grandparents? Turns out, their son, my bio-father, wasn't the only family member with a clandestine past. In April, my mom's half-brother's daughter, call her cousin A, reached out, newly inspired to do a DNA test after all my hoopla last fall. Her results? She's actually the child of my mom's long-lost cousin, placed for adoption back in the 70s and just discovered living 2 hours away. When we all met for coffee, there was much ugly crying, immediate ribbing about inherited noses, and someone brought a 6-layer cake because, apparently, we have enough family for 1 per layer. Our family WhatsApp thread is now just a storm of baby photos and confused cries of, so, wait, how exactly are we related again? And, not to be outdone, my bio dad decided to get involved with my genealogy sleuthing and found, get this, a 3rd half-sibling he never knew existed. The man, let's call him Jack, was always known in the next county as that handsome mailman, but no one ever said biological mailman. Jack appeared in our matches as a close fit, and after a politely worded email, a coffee meetup, and an exchange of childhood photos, and eyebrows, we all have the same thick, dramatic brows. Now he's part of the fold, too. Jack's wife is delighted and calls this her new favorite telenovela. On the medical history front, it's been nothing short of revelatory. Thanks to my NPE group therapist connections, I was invited to take part in a genetic screening study for people with complex family trees. The upside? I learned I have a rare gene that makes my body react weirdly to a common antibiotic. Thank you. Awkward, but life-saving family studies. The downside? Both my bio dad and Jack have the same mutation, so now we're all on the carrier allergy card. Plan. Irony, the one thing every branch of my family can bond over is a very specific reaction to penicillin. You can't make this up. But here's where it gets especially Reddit-y and comically surreal. At my local library's family history night, where I'd gone to help out with the Main Street Mystery Trunk Project, remember those 1950s love letters? A local journalist showed up to interview families with wild stories. Well, now my tangled tree is featured on page A3 of the paper, under the headline, Roots Revealed, Local Family Finds Truth in Unexpected Branches. Even my 85-year-old neighbor, who's known me since I was in braces, stopped me at the grocery store to say, "Dear, your story made me call my cousin in New Jersey. We did a test just in case." Meanwhile, on the 2 dads front, it's gone from awkward dad banter to full-on group text shenanigans. My actual father, who raised me, and my bio dad have now teamed up to challenge each other to who knows who best. Trivia. Last week, they sent a joint video message singing happy birthday, in Yiddish and French. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my phone. Even better, my legal dad brought my bio dad one of my childhood drawings he'd saved, offering a literal olive branch with a post-it. Oop, drew this and I always thought she inherited my appreciation for abstract art. Now I see there might be another Picasso in the mix. If there's an award for most emotionally mature middle-aged dads, these 2 get it. On a deeper, more personal note, I said I wanted to find new meaning and joy in this process. Well, I did something totally new. I applied to, and got into, a local oral history project as a storyteller. Each month, I interview elders, mine or someone else's, about their life journeys and family secrets, collecting them for a community archive, sitting with strangers who tell me about lost siblings, immigrant journeys, chance meetings, and reconciliations. Well, it's simultaneously healing and humbling. These aren't just stories, they're blueprints for how humans find kinship in unlikely places. Sometimes, someone cracks a joke about a secret relative, and I get to say, I've got one of those too. It's the most connected I've ever felt. And, because the universe has a sense of humor, just as I finished updating my 3 family trees. Ancestry rolled out a software update, and for one hilarious half hour, every match temporarily shifted one branch. Once again, I had a mini existential crisis. 3 dads, briefly. We recovered, I laughed. My therapist had to remind me, your roots are real, even if the algorithm is confused. So, the wildest part? Despite the chaos, I no longer feel split. I feel, multiply rooted. I belong to more people than I ever guessed, and, maybe most importantly, I belong to myself. For anyone following along, wondering if it gets easier, it doesn't always, but it gets richer, weirder, and sometimes more beautiful than you thought possible on that first Halloween night while half asleep and staring at your phone. Next stop, the 3 family 4th of July, complete with a team dad joke battle, a dessert contest, and, undoubtedly, another round of So How Are We All Related? Charts on the picnic blanket. If there's another plot twist coming, bring it on. I've got color-coded index cards, backup pie, and more support than I dreamed. Here we are, Reddit. If you told me last year I'd be writing this clutching a glass of Prosecco at my first annual retrospective family mashup picnic, I'd have suggested you lay off the true crime genealogy podcasts. But the plot, like my family tree, just keeps on thickening. Let's start where all new dramas start these days. Tuesday at therapy, my NPE therapist, a true MVP, asked if I'd found peace with the truth. The answer? Sort of. See, peace now looks like 2 different group chats full of relatives I didn't know I had, an on-again off-again genealogy spreadsheet addiction, and the sinking feeling that Ancestry.com knows more about me than I do. But, as she also said, healing isn't linear, and neither, apparently, is my family line. So, that 4th of July epic picnic? A raucous hit. Picture, both my dads sitting side by side in matching Team Dad t-shirts. My sister could not resist custom printing them, presiding over a hotly contested funniest family story contest. The trophy, an honest-to-God gilded gravy boat scrounged up at Goodwill, was won by my dad's cousin Lisa, who revealed, to everyone's absolute horror, that she once crashed an Elvis convention with my grandmother to meet the one true king. My 2 bio grandpas bobbled their heads in agreement and led songs. The kids made a chalk mural, "This is us, for real this time." It's the kind of oddly perfect nonsense that makes sense only if your family tree looks like a Kandinsky after 3 espressos. What I didn't expect, half a dozen new relatives, including Jack the secret mailman, Iris the dance class mom, and cousin A and her formerly adopted mom, all showed up to see if we really look alike. Verdict, startling, especially the ears, and yes, we did a photo lineup. My 2 dads spent the afternoon trying to one-up each other on corny dad jokes, and at one point, mid-lemonade, my mom pulled me aside. "Look at this, kiddo. None of us could have predicted this, but it's good, isn't it?" "Reader," I cried. Happy tears, this time. I thought the drama might slow, but once you're the family DNA detective, the mysteries come to you. Case in point, my library's Families of Main Street project led to a shoebox full of unlabeled World War II era letters turning up at the front desk. Local legend pinned them as belonging to some anonymous soldier. Using DNA clues, and a little intuition, I tracked them to, wait for it, my great-grandmother's half-sister's son-in-law. Which means the town's annual Remembrance Day now has a new hero to celebrate, and I got to write his first Wikipedia stub with a group called Historians for Hire. Bonus, his granddaughter messaged me that night to thank me for returning part of her story. Meanwhile, Bio Dad's family remains a tangle of surprises. The DNA mailman Jack took his first real vacation with us. 3 dads, Bio, legal, and mailman, 5 siblings, 1 huge Airbnb, and a single broken dishwasher. It was honestly magical. Jack, who never had kids of his own, gamely agreed to play mystery relative on Family Feud night. He swept the name "A Reason Your Family Tree Makes No Sense" round. On the last morning, he quietly gave me a locket with a photo of my birth grandmother, the one we thought we'd never find a real image of. Bio Dad started crying, and my legal dad gave Jack a bear hug so big I thought they'd both pop. 2 months ago, my bio uncle's adult son reached out with some medical news. Turns out a rare cardiac event had cropped up in his records. Thanks to all our NPE openness, my half-siblings and I got proactive screenings. To my surprise, and my doctor's fascination, I'm actually a carrier, though asymptomatic. I shared the info with my less related siblings just in case. The upshot, we're all living healthier. Vegan chili cook-off, anyone? And my found cousin Lisa made a spreadsheet of everything from blood pressures to favorite pie fillings, because honestly, why not? On a lighter note, after all these updates, my general practitioner now refers to our family as the living proof of why family health history matters. Next month, we're guest speaking at a local genetics seminar. The slides I'm making have a chart titled "Why You Might Need 3 Fathers on Your Care Team." Remember that local journalist? After her piece on our family, I was approached to do a segment for the local NPR affiliate, live, about genetic discoveries and making peace with parenthood. Nerve-wracking? Yes. Rewarding? Absolutely. My 2 dads came with me. On air, my legal dad said, "I may not share her DNA, but I'll always share my pie recipe and my pride," and my bio dad added, "and I'll share the good hair." I swear, the host nearly had to mute us, we were laughing so hard. But the best moment? After the show, I got dozens of emails from people, some NPE, some adoptees, some I just did 23andMe and oh no, all thanking me for sharing. One local high schooler even said she now felt ready to talk to her family about her adoption. So here's the jaw dropper. Last week, while enjoying a lazy Sunday, I got an ancestry message from a woman in Montreal. You probably don't know me, but my grandfather's papers say he left New York in 1943. He was adopted, but our DNA is close. Long story short, she's the granddaughter of my great-grandfather's younger brother, given up for adoption at birth, raised in Canada, never spoken of again. I FaceTimed her yesterday. She looks just like my grandfather did when he was young. We're planning a trip to meet halfway, Vermont Maple Festival, anyone? And I'm going to help her find any living relatives. If I needed more proof that families are made and remade every day, here it is. The circle never stops growing. I no longer measure family by chromosomes or ancient surnames. I measure it by laughter at ridiculous picnics, warm hugs from people you only just met, and late-night texts about weird inherited freckles. From NPE therapy sessions to impromptu medical summits, from side-eye from the family dog, who are all these people? To kids drawing a new family tree on the driveway every other week, this is life. Complicated, exhausting, hilarious. And if there's another update coming? I hope it's from a long table at a family reunion where we need 3 rolls of craft paper just to get everyone's name down, or from the archives of a Mothers of Main Street oral history, where I get to record the stories of families even wilder than mine. To everyone following along, rooting for me, sending ideas, and reminding me that confusion can be a form of love, thank you. My roots are messy, multicolored, crisscrossed and richer than ever. And to anyone staring at their DNA results at 2 a.m., if you end up with a story half as weird as mine, welcome to the club. We have gravy boat trophies, backup pie, and, most importantly, unconditional love.